Brainstorming. Brainstorming is well diffused. It's familiar to many people. Let's look at more advanced tools for ideation. They can be thought of as brainstorming enhancers. In brainstorming and brainwriting, ideas come from your head and the heads of others. These advanced tools use deliberate springboards. They boost your imagination. They feed it stimuli from which you can springboard off of to generate ideas. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a pool and you're on a hard surface about to dive into the pool. Now compare that to standing on a diving board with a springboard, in which case you can bounce and use that to spring you into the water. The tools that we'll learn in this lecture act like a springboard. They enhance brainstorming sessions. They're typically used after brainstorming when we want to re-energize our ideation. Our first tool is called reverse brainstorming. It's good to use when people are familiar with brainstorming, or you've used brainstorming and you're looking for a different kind of ideation tool. You want to shake things up a little bit. It's a fun variation, and it's particularly useful when there are groups who have judgmental participants. We take the same initial approach as we did with brainstorming. We begin by identifying a specific challenge statement, making sure that it's well constructed. By way of example, we'll use the following statement: how to ensure customer loyalty for a new internet business. So imagine you're about to launch a new business. It's going to be primarily through the internet, and you want to ensure that customers quickly develop loyalty and remain loyal to your new business. Next, we take our challenge statement and we reverse it. We reverse it into a negative form. For example, we might say how to decrease customer loyalty, how to increase mistrust between our business and our customers. In what ways might we frustrate our customers? What might be all the things we could do to drive our customers away? So we've taken our initial challenge, our goal of ensuring customer loyalty, and we reverse those into what we don't want to have happen. Once we've diverged on various reversed challenge statements, we then converge on one that comes the closest to capturing the exact opposite of what we wish to do. And then we generate ideas on that reverse challenge statement. And of course, we're following the guidelines for divergent thinking. We're deferring judgment. We're striving for quantity. We're making connections, and we're remaining open to novelty. After the ideas have been generated for this negative statement, we then reverse them back, turning the negative ideas into positive ideas and thus hopefully responding to our real challenge. Because you are diverging, one negative idea can stimulate multiple positive ideas. So let's return to our example. How to ensure customer loyalty for a new internet business. Let's say we've selected the negative statement, the reverse challenge statement. In what ways might we frustrate our customers? And let's imagine we've generated ideas on that negative statement. Perhaps one idea was to ensure that there are lots of layers to the purchasing process. That's the negative idea. How do we now reverse that to address our original challenge, our goal of ensuring customer loyalty? Well, having lots of layers to purchasing process might lead to make the process fun. Use a story as a backdrop to the ordering process. Use a visual dashboard to show progress as the customer moves through the system. Have access to a live person during the ordering process, either via phone or computer camera. Let's say another reversed negative idea was to deliver the product late. So again, we take the negative idea and we use that as a springboard to reverse it and generate positive potential solutions. So deliver product late might lead to create a simple tracking system. Give future discounts if an item's not received on time. Perhaps make all deliveries special. Gift wrap, add a balloon, include a cookie. Let's talk about reverse brainstorming. It takes a bit more time than classic brainstorming because we have these reversals, reversing our initial challenge statement into a negative statement, and then reversing the negative ideas back to positive ideas. So plan on a bit more time. But it has a nice advantage in that it can be humorous and playful and often generates lots of laughter when you hear these negative ideas come up. It's also beneficial in that it can get negative people on board, those individuals who always view the problem from a pessimistic perspective. There are some watch-outs. One watch-out when using reverse brainstorming is that you may not generate highly novel ideas. Now, this can be avoided by not simply doing straightforward reversals. So the negative idea comes up, produce a product or deliver a product that arrives late to the customer. Well, we reverse that back in a straightforward manner to make sure the product's delivered on time. And then you move on to the next idea. Rather, I encourage you to take one negative idea and spend a little time with it. Don't just reverse it into the obvious positive idea. Play with it a little bit. See what lateral ideas come up from that one negative idea. Again, I found that some people find this tool easier to use, especially when there's a need to be more playful or a need to shut down some of the pessimistic negative thinking. It also, because you have the negative ideas to build off of, you've got a built-in springboard. We don't have that so much so in classic brainstorming, and by having that springboard, you allow for some bounce to ideas. Speaking of springboards, our mind naturally makes connections. You see something and it jogs a memory or it stimulates an idea. Thoughts don't occur in a vacuum. They line up in a chain, one idea linked to another. We call this associative thinking. Associative thinking refers to how ideas, feelings, and movements are connected in such a way to determine their succession in the mind. Sarnoff-Mednick believed that this was the basis to the creative process, that the creative process happened as a result of associative thinking. He suggested that the creative process is an ability to form new associative elements that are recognized as being useful. There are a couple main tenets to his theory. First, he says, when we create, the larger the set of associations, the greater the probability of developing creative solutions. He also suggests that the more remote the association, the more novel the association, the more creative the outcome. For example, if I said salt, the word that might come to your mind first is pepper. That's a pretty predictable association to make. But if I said salt, and the thought that came to your mind was Angelina Jolie, that's a remote association. By the way, Angelina Jolie starred in a movie called Salt. Mednick created a measure to test his associative thinking theory. The name of this measure is called the Remote Associates Test. For short, the RAT. Here are some examples of the kinds of items on the Remote Associates Test. The respondent is presented with 3 words, and they're to make a connection among those 3 words. Think along with me as I give you 2 examples. Here's example number 1. What connects these 3 words? Rat, blue, and cottage. Again, rat, blue, and cottage. Now, the answer is cheese. Cottage cheese, blue cheese, and we often associate cheese with rats. Let's try another one. Here are the 3 words. Again, think along with me. Shot, cleaner, and stained. That's shot, cleaner, and stained. The answer is glass. Shot glass, glass cleaner, stained glass. Now, in theory, the more right answers, the more associations you can make. And hypothetically, we suggest that if you can make more associations, the more creative you'll be. But Does that truly work? Does the hypothesis hold? The remote associates test is interesting, but does it work in terms of practical, real creativity? Can associative thinking be leveraged to improve creative thinking? Well, there are two forms of associative thinking. There are free associations, which are unguided, without purpose or design, and as a result are unpredictable. There are also facilitated associations. This is thinking that's regulated by some desire, design, intention, strategy. It's more predictable. In deliberate creativity, we link to the second form of associative thinking, creating facilitated associations. But of course, this naturally leverages the free associations we make. Here's a study that tested whether facilitated associations really work. Does it make a difference? The question the researchers wanted to answer was, can you improve creative thinking by deliberately facilitating associative thinking? They used a tool called the Fisher Dictionary, which contains word association lists. For example, crimson, flamingo, caboose, and stoplight all relate to the word red. In this dictionary, there are 360 lists that are used to stimulate idea generation. Now, the task the participants worked on was to generate catchy phrases to print under a picture on a t-shirt. The experimental group was given the Fisher list, remember, which is designed to engage in facilitated association. The control group received no such list. The results. The groups were not timed. Individuals could take as much time as they wished. The experimental group worked longer, on average 78 minutes generating ideas, versus the control group, which worked for about 55 minutes. This is 42% longer for the experimental group. And the experimental group generated, on average, many more ideas than the control group, 87 versus 64. Now, this is interesting. When the control group had finished generating ideas, they were presented with the Fisher list. And on average, they worked for 51 more minutes, producing, on average, 50 more ideas. So this Fisher list, a deliberate associative tool, did serve as an effective springboard, even after the participants were fatigued. We're going to follow this experiment, and we're going to look at a tool that takes advantage of associative thinking. Our next tool is called forced relationships. This is a way of facilitating associative thoughts, and it's often used in a way like the Fisher list in the study that I just cited, after a group has initially done some brainstorming or some ideation. It's used to recharge their thinking. The tool works by selecting an object and asking yourself, what ideas do I get for my challenge by looking at this object? We're going to return to how to ensure customer loyalty for a new internet business. We have a marker, a magic marker. We use this marker to generate new ideas. We look at the marker to consider attributes. Now, the marker has nothing to do with customer loyalty, so we're forcing associations. We're following the guidelines for divergent thinking, and we're exploring all possibilities. So, what suggestions might we get by looking at a marker, by forcing it into this challenge? Well, we might be able to make it easier for customers to provide feedback. We could have a hidden prize somewhere along in the ordering process. That's stimulated by the fact that the marker top hides the top of the marker itself. We might have a wall in the website for customers to leave their graffiti. When you run out of ideas using one object, you select another object. For example, a pair of glasses. To help build the associations, it's often useful to look at the qualities or the attributes of the object that you're using to make connections. So in looking at this pair of glasses, we have a frame, we have the lenses, we have nose pieces. Again, we ask the question, what ideas do we get for ensuring customer loyalty by looking at a pair of glasses? Well, we could make the ordering process transparent. We could let customers see the fulfillment process while it happens. We could let the customers see any mistakes they make in completing the ordering process before they move to the next screen. Again, when you run out of ideas, you move to another object. This is even more remote. I have a dinosaur, a T-Rex. So we begin by looking at the properties of the T-Rex. It's powerful, has short arms, it's extinct. We can only see them in museums. So what ideas do we get for ensuring customer loyalty from a T-Rex? I'll pause for a moment and you think about it. What ideas do you get for improving customer loyalty from a T-Rex? Remember, we're following the guidelines for divergent thinking. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the lecture. So, how did you do? What ideas did you get for ensuring customer loyalty from this dinosaur, the T-Rex? Here's some thoughts that occurred to me. You could create a museum or a hall of fame of best customers. You can include a ticket to local cultural experiences with every purchase. You can collect customer feedback and evolve your process, communicating back to the customer how their feedback improved the customer experience. Let's talk about the Forced Connections tool. You can use it individually or you can use it as a group. You can use objects immediately available to you, or you can collect thought-provoking pieces. However, be sure that the object is not related to the challenge. Remember, we're going after remote associations, and if the object is too close to the problem that you're working on, it doesn't force us to think in new pathways. We use it after brainstorming. It serves as a springboard, a brainstorming enhancer. Here's a real-life example of how an ordinary object led to a breakthrough in aerospace engineering. Many dream of commercial space travel, but there are serious engineering challenges. One big challenge is re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Moving from the vacuum in space to Earth's dense atmosphere is dangerous and technically challenging. Burt Rutan, a famous aerospace engineer, is on a quest for a fail-safe solution. Eventually, the solution was inspired by the humble shuttlecock. That's right, the badminton birdie. The design of the badminton birdie suggested what is called a feathery re-entry. Rutan spaceships use light and flexible tail systems that deploy during re-entry. There are many benefits to this. The feathery design means a highly stable re-entry, and it's 1,000 times safer than other designs. After the re-entry, the tail lowers to its original configuration, and the spaceship glides to a landing. Virgin Galactic adopted Rutan's design and is in the process of building the first commercial spaceport in New Mexico. In Forced Connections, we use objects. In this next tool, Visually Identifying Relationships, or VIR for short, we use images, photographs, and pictures to stimulate ideas. We also add to it an excursion. We take a mental break, we go away, we distance ourselves from the challenge. Neuroscience research shows that distancing yourself allows your mind to wander. And as a result, your thoughts can travel down new neural pathways. It can create new connections. The ubiquitous barcode. Where did that idea come from? Let me tell you the story. In 1948, a grocery store executive approached Drexel Institute of Technology and challenged the students there to develop a way to inventory the products in the grocery store using technology, a way to encode the products. N. Joseph Woodland accepted the challenge. And in fact, he got so absorbed in this challenge, he quit his graduate student teaching position, and he moved in with his grandfather in Florida. Later that year, he needed to take a break. He was sitting on a beach in Miami. He was dragging his fingers through the sand, just thinking idle thoughts. And he looked at the track that his fingers created, and that pattern sparked an idea. What if a series of lines or bars of different widths could function like the dots and dashes of Morse code? VIR, visually identifying relationships, works much like the strategy, though unintentional, that Woodland used. We take a break, we move away from our challenge, just like he took a break and went to the beach. And then we present images to our mind, and we use those images to create, first of all, random associations. And then later, we use those images to facilitate direct associations. So here's how VIR works. You'll need 4 photographs, 4 pictures. The first picture is designed to take you away, to relax you, to allow your mind to decompress, to take a short vacation. Then the next 3 photographs are used as stimulants. We look at the first picture, we relax, we gain some distance, we slow our thinking down, and then we look at the next 3 and record our observations. We still are distant from the challenge. We're not intentionally thinking about the challenge. We write down our observations, our free associations, memories and feelings, facts related to the photographs. Then we reintroduce the challenge. We generate ideas using facilitated associations. Let's walk through an example. We'll go back to the same challenge of customer loyalty. I'm going to share an image with you and I'll describe it. This first photograph is a stream. It's flowing over some rocks and sort of making a small waterfall. It appears as though it's fall because there are leaves that have changed colors that we see in the water. We use this photograph to distance ourselves from the challenge that we're working on, the challenge of enhancing customer loyalty. We're forgetting about that challenge. We're moving away from it. Then we go to our next photograph. And at this point, we're going to record our observations now that we're in a relaxed state. This next photograph is a photograph of 2 boys. They look like they could be brothers. They're running off of a platform and they're jumping into a large pond or a lake. The free associations that you might have to this photograph might be things like brothers, cold mountain lake, danger, can't swim. We move to our next photograph. Again, we're going to capture our free associations with this next photograph, our observations. The next photograph is a photo of a clock. It's inside of a Paris museum, a museum that was once a railway station that's been converted into a museum dedicated to Impressionist art. So our observations might be Paris, time, and railway station. And then we move to our next photograph. Again, we begin by looking at those free associations. This photograph is a photograph of a butterfly sitting on a flower. Our observations might be butterfly, migration, childhood memories. Now, we reintroduce our challenge. Now that we've taken this mental excursion, we've allowed our mind to go somewhere else. We bring those observations, those free associations, back to the challenge, and now we deliberately facilitate associations. So we return to our first photograph of the 2 boys jumping into the lake and remind ourselves of the challenge. The challenge that we're working on is how to ensure customer loyalty for a new internet business. Our observations were brothers, cold mountain lake, danger, can't swim. So what new ideas might those observations give us? We're following the guidelines for divergent thinking as we make these facilitated associations. From brothers, we might think, oh, let's link customers with other customers. Let's offer a service in which customers support one another, such as a mentoring program. Treat customers like family. Host regional reunion parties for loyal customers, and so forth. From the observation, danger, can't swim, we might get such ideas as include navigation map within the website. Have a lifesaver available. Phone a friend option if you get stuck. Make easy to follow tutorials. Create a system that detects when someone is having trouble and then offers help. What about the image of a clock inside a museum in the former railroad station? Again, we're looking at the challenge of how to ensure customer loyalty for a new internet business. Our observations were Paris, time, and railway station. What new ideas might we get from the observation of Paris? Well, we might say free trips awarded randomly, customer loyalty program with rewards for visiting website and making a purchase. Next, we go to our third photograph. This was the photograph of the butterfly on the flower. Our observations might have been butterfly, migration, pollination. What new ideas might we get when we consider the word migration? Well, we might suggest following a butterfly as it's migrating through the web pages as someone visits the website and makes an order. From pollination, we might say reward customers for sharing the website with others. So let's talk about the VIR tool, visually identifying relationships. One of the benefits of VIR is that it slows our thinking down. In a brainstorming session, it's often fast-paced and we're throwing out many ideas quickly. When we go to VIR, it changes that pace. It forces us to be more reflective. It forces our mind to take detours, and as a result, we may use new neural pathways. VIR works as well individually as it does for a group. In fact, for an individual, the benefit is when you don't have a group, you have got these photographs to be a stimulant, a springboard for you. You don't hear others' ideas, but you use the photographs to create associations. And it can be used as a group. In a group application, participants work individually at first, through the entire tool as I just walked you through it. And then when they begin to share their observations and share their new connections, these new associations, they listen to one another and they continue to engage in divergent thinking to see if they can now cross-fertilize the ideas that they each had generated. If you're going to use VIR, I recommend building up an inventory of photographs. I've collected well over 100. This is a tool I regularly use when I'm facilitating groups, and groups enjoy it and it's highly effective. Some tips though, when you create this photograph montage to share with others. When you select photographs, much like when we did forced connections, make sure that the images that you use aren't related to the task that you're working on. If you're working on something technical, don't show an example of a computer or the internal parts of a computer. And use images only. Avoid words. And stay away from well-known brands because we already have associations with well-known brands. We want to force new thinking. Forced connections and VIR are advanced tools. They take practice. We don't spring them on people the first time they're engaging in an ideation session. It's important to warm them up before using these advanced tools. I'd like you to try out Visually Identifying Relationships, VIR, before our next lecture. Find a challenge that requires some imagination. Apply VIR to that challenge. Locate 4 photographs. Find a quiet space. Go through the photographs, first using the first image for relaxation, and then the next 3 to record your free associations for each of those photos. Then generate new ideas by making associations with your observations. And after you've gotten comfortable with it in terms of its individual use, then try it out with a group. In this way, when you go to a group, you can share how you use it. You can use yourself and your own personal experience by way of example. In the next lecture, you'll learn additional ideation tools that use a different kind of springboard, analogies.